Well, time for headline makers this morning. Let's start with the front pages, should we? The Telegraph has Jeremy Hunt saying tax cuts are virtually impossible, and he's warned he faces some difficult decisions.
That's all he ever says.
Don't we all?
Yeah. The Times says Rishi Sunak wants an A-level reform to boost pupils' life skills, and he aims to open divisions with Labour.
In The Sun, the BBC dragged deeper into the Russell Brand scandal after he was accused of exposing himself whilst working and then talking about it on his radio show.
And finally, The Star, save our spam, after it was revealed that shoppers are turning their backs on old-fashioned foods.
Let's talk to former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, David Mellor, and writer and columnist Emma Wolfe, who are here for us this morning. Good to see you both. Let's kick off, David, with this, because it is the clip that everyone's talking about this morning. Keir Starmer talking about having sort of fewer... what's the word he uses? It's not divisions, but...
Yes, he basically has said he will not disagree with major decisions that the EU has made.
Do you think that's what he's saying, though?
Well, I mean, with Keir, it'd never be quite clear, you know. Keir may be a lawyer, but he was one of those lawyers who obfuscates rather than offers clarity. Look, I think probably the Tories are toast, right? I mean, I wouldn't bet the ranch on the Tories doing well at the next election. But if anyone can pull the Tories' problems and say out of the bouillon, since we're all very French, aren't we, today? I mean, the Tories may be deep in the bouillon, but they can be pulled out by Keir Starmer. And I do not understand what the man is playing at. The idea that going along with European decisions, it's not as though we left some entity. Look, I was in a good position, actually. It's like being a Chelsea fan, going to a Manchester United, Manchester City game. I hate both of them. So I hated the EU, and I hated most of the people who came out with a pack of lies saying why we should come out of the EU. So I'm in a very good place here. But I tell you something, I don't understand why Keir Starmer thinks there's votes in going along with the EU, because the EU people
well,
don't.
There probably are.
It's not the shining city on a hill. You know,
talk to youngsters my son's age, and they would go for that. They would. They'd think, all right, let's move just a little bit closer to the EU. They really would.
Quite frightening. No wonder they want to have the voting age reduced to 9 or something. Yeah.
Well, yeah, what do you think?
I just wonder why both parties... I mean, we saw it yesterday with Net Zero and Rishi Sunak kind of U-turning in terms of the pledges that we need to do to get there, but not really U-turning on the ultimate goal. I just think both parties could do themselves a favour by just being clear. We're not idiots. Voters are not idiots. You can't just pretend that you're sort of both. You're sort of going to carry on with Brexit. You're not going to reverse Brexit, but you are going to go in the direction of the EU for voters like your son. I just think, why not be clear with us about where you stand on this? Because Keir Starmer hasn't been clear.
But you're asking politicians to be honest.
Of course, and they want to have it both ways.
But that's true, because don't forget, Keir Starmer, we always need to remember that when Corbyn was leader of the Labour Party, and somewhere in the far distance you had to put a pair of binoculars on to see where he was on the spectrum, Keir Starmer was his spokesman on Europe. And, you know, there are two sorts of lawyers in politics. I was a lawyer, but I used to tell my mother I was a pianist in a strip club, but I was actually a lawyer, I have to admit.
She preferred you to be a...
Oh, I think she thought it would have been... I'd have had a great career tinkling the ivies in the strip club. She wasn't so sure about everything else. But the point of the matter...
It's the idea of you going to your mother saying, I want to be a politician. Oh, no. All right, I'll be a lawyer.
She did say that. She did say both of those things. But she was a sensible woman, my mum. Anyway, here's the reality, that that Keir Starmer... There are lawyers who wanted to go into politics, and they became lawyers. Keir Starmer is a lawyer, a signed-up lawyer. Now, the thing about a lawyer is, a proven lawyer, as Peter Cook always used to say, that they don't actually have any deep-seated beliefs. You know, you tell them to argue one thing and you give them a few bob, and then you give them a few more bob, and they argue something completely different. And there is no sense of belief with this man.
But he is playing a dangerous game, is it? Because I think it's right. There is a younger generation who perhaps may buy into this idea of a closer tie with Europe again. They'd buy into that, so it's a vote winner in one sense. But red wall seats...
It's also a huge betrayal of all of those 51% that voted for Brexit.
Yes.
no matter what you think. And
Exactly.
also, will people like Anne's son, no, not throwing shade on him.
No, it's all of
will
my
they go
sons.
out and vote?
It's all of them.
Will they go out and vote? Because you have to remember,
yes.
you want... OK, well...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, traditionally it's going to be the older, the red wall, who will vote against this.
But there's a problem, actually, isn't there, even with the older voters in that sense, because older voters tend to be more right-wing and all the rest of it. But they're split now. Parties like Reform are getting enough momentum to split the Tory vote.
Well, that is the problem too. That, and of course, we still don't know. You know, lurking somewhere in this building is a gentleman called Farage. You've heard of him?
Ah, yes, I have indeed.
What's Nigel going to do? At what point is Nigel going to say, I'm hanging up my microphone for a bit and I'm going to go and cause some trouble on the political stage? He won't be able to resist it.
Yeah, well, we shall see.
And I think a lot of our viewers would be very keen on him doing that.
Of course they
Oh,
would.
indeed.
But ultimately,
I would
it's
be
all
quite
going to be a
amused by
very,
it, actually.
very
It's all
low
very
turnout.
divisive,
I think it's
isn't
very
it?
divisive, and I think that a lot of people don't know where, the centre-right people don't know where to put their vote. I don't think they're going to feel, really, that Reform and Reclaim and all of those kind of alternatives are credible enough. I think it's going to be a really low turnout.
And the problem is, too, that, you know, look, I've always been an admirer of Rishi Sunak. I would have voted for him at every opportunity. But it doesn't mean I think he's going to be a great leader. I think the trouble for Rishi Sunak is he's intellectual, he's bright, he's experienced, but in his guts, what's he really believe? In his guts, what's he going to go out there and really fight for? And the answer, in the immortal words of that great magician of the past, not a lot.
No, that's true. He doesn't come across as passionate about anything very much.
Emma, let's
yes,
move
this is
on
a great
to
story.
such a human story.
Yeah.
You think this is such good news. Can you describe what's happened?
Really exciting. A little girl, an 8-year-old girl, has received a kidney from her mum. A little girl called Aditi Shankar has received this kidney at Great Ormond Street. And for the first time, doctors have not needed to give her immunosuppressants. So they did the donor from her mum, the kidney from her mum. What an amazing thing to do, to give a kidney to anybody, to give a kidney to your daughter. And they don't require her to take long-term drugs to stop the rejection of the organ.
Why?
And that's the first time this has ever really happened.
Because they've used...
People you normally... Sorry, just to sort of explain to anyone, people who normally have an organ transplant have to have immunosuppressant drugs for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and she did have them for a few weeks straight after the transplant, but because of stem cell miracles, you know, this is amazing stuff about stem cells, isn't it? But anyway, they took stem cells from her mother and they were able to kind of make it homely, as it were.
Apparently they put... Sorry, I've read up on this because I was so keen on this. Apparently, before they did the kidney transplant, they did a bone marrow transplant using stem cells from mums, and they put it into the daughter's marrow, so that they changed the whole characteristic of her own bone marrow, so that when they transplanted the kidney,
it
her
accepted.
body thought, that's my kidney.
And it accepted
Isn't that
the organ.
incredible?
It is.
And she's now off, she's doing swimming, she's doing things that other children can do and feeling well, which is really, really amazing because she had a very, very rare condition. It's called SIOD, Schimke's immuno-osseous dysplasia, which meant her kidneys were failing.
And wasn't this also that the doctors and scientists have been working all over Europe, actually, and America? They've all
to
got
work
together
internationally on
to
this
do
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, can we move back... I mean, it's a wonderful story, but I don't understand it. Can we move back to something simple that I can get into my head?
Oh, well, yeah, all right, then. Rupert Murdoch.
Ah!
Oh.
Aha! Well...
So the man is... Well, he's going but not going, David. A bit like yourself. Never quite steps away.
He'll go with a lot more money than I will, sad to tell you. Well, we need to go back, of course, to the beginning of this and Murdoch buying and sort of recreating the sun. We need to remember that the attack that Murdoch has made on British civilization is quite profound, actually, because once the Sun became what it became in British tabloids, the standards really went through the floor. But there he is. He's still up there and he's still at it. If I was his son, I wouldn't buy too many bigger offices. I suspect Dad will still be running the show from behind, and he will continue for as well. As I said, he says they'll have to take him out of a box. Yeah,
he says he wants to pursue new opportunities.
Fantastic.
But he's been married about 10 times, so I guess there may be the odd opportunity
and
there.
he said
Who's to
he's
say?
you know, the papers are in great health, his corporation, and so's he. I love that as a throwaway comment. He, you know.
I don't know whether to think that Murdoch is a man who has who's done a lot of great things for the media, and that he's brought about a number of media revolutions. But has he wielded too much political influence?
Undoubtedly, he's wielded too much political influence, and it was quite sad, really, that leading British politicians had to go to wherever he was hanging out, and he would deliberately ask them to go to some conference of his executives so he could show, I'm Rupert Murdoch. Those people here today, gone tomorrow, I am forever.
Is it true that when a new Prime Minister gets in, of whatever ilk in this country, almost the first guest in number 10 is Rupert Murdoch?
Well, absolutely. I mean, John Major used to say to me that he wasn't going to play that game. And actually, to be fair to him, he didn't really. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it was the Sun what won it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Was it?
No, I don't think so. But, you see, it doesn't matter. What matters is, doesn't matter what's true. What matters is what people believe. It's the factoid. And the great factoid is that Murdoch's papers determine the political destiny of this country.
What do you reckon, Emma?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have newspapers that millions of people used to be, not so much now, but used to be reading every single day, of course they're going to wield huge power. It's just inevitable. And of course, therefore, prime ministers and politicians are going to cosy up to them. I think it'll be really interesting to see what his son, what Lachlan does in terms of decisions. I suppose that's more of a media interest thing, but what they do in terms of decisions around television channels and, what are the next steps? Will he want to keep expanding and pouring money into these ventures or not?
Or will he sit back and get on the phone to Dad every morning and ask him what he should be doing?
Well,
I think there's going to be quite a lot of that.
I think.
Yeah.
At least in the first years.
Yeah, you sort of think, would you dare do anything else?
Well, that's the point. Because he has got another son, and of course, in the earlier days,
James took the helm,
they were jockeying for position. Murdoch is an arch manipulator. He loves the power game, I suppose, and one just has to say he's not going to stop until someone decides they've had enough of him.
It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one that's someone who is like that. I mean, is the last of his ilk, do we think?
Really, yeah.
It would be nice.
My father died at
so.
92, and it is that last of the gentleman, the gentleman operator. I'm not sure one would call Rupert Murdoch a gentleman, but that generation.
But we need to remember, too, that he gets away with it being seen as triumphant. What is it? Nearly $1 billion he had to pay for... I didn't quite understand the details.
Oh, yeah, it was the Fox News allegations about the voting machines, wasn't it?
That's right.
700-odd million that went to one company, and
it is very impressive a man of your age retains all these facts in your head. I wish I could.
But he
Thank you, David.
When he set up Fox News, he said that the secret is to tell people what they want to hear, not to bother to tell them the
It's
truth.
not information,
but tell them what they want to hear.
Entertainment,
Yes,
basically.
exactly, and it became incredibly popular.
Exactly,
very fast.
and I think of the people, the thousands of people he's employed over the years. I think of all the people I know that work in journalism and in TV and all of that. I think that he's employed,
Well, we've all
many.
We've all taken the Murdoch pound at one point or another.
Exactly.
But there you go. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. But there you go. It's just the nature of it. It is 6:45. Let's